And welcome into a brand new season 7 of Believe in Panthers here on Believe Podcast Network. So I'm your host, Desmond Johnson from Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Panthers all-time leading rusher Jonathan Stewart in the house. The dynamic duo is back again for another season. And for once, Stu, our optimism might actually come back, back to us. Like this is the most optimistic we usually are. Like right now.
It came back to me last year. I don't know about you.
It circled back around towards the very end. But usually this is the highest we are, and then it starts doing this or like this. So we'll figure it out. We had to bring in our guy Anish Shroff from the Panthers Radio Network. He's going to help us figure this out as training camp for the Panthers begins this week. Rookies reported on Tuesday, July the 21st. Veterans will report on July the 22nd. First practice is July 23rd over the fields behind Bank of America Stadium. And of course, we're brought to you by the fine folks over at FanDuel. The first practice, July 23rd. FanFest at BOA is July 31st, 6:30 p.m. Tickets as low as $6.30. So if you want to go and check out some Panthers, you can do that. The practice starts at 7:30. The post-practice stay for the fireworks and laser show over Uptown Charlotte. So that sounds like a blast. Let's get into some news and notes from the Panthers. We've been gone for a minute. Let's get you caught up on everything before we start grilling our buddy Anish on what he's going to be looking at here over the next couple of days in training camp. Let's start off with some good news. Panthers defensive tackle Derek Brown is in the news right now. Highest rated defensive tackle in Madden NFL 27. It was just announced today. He is listed.
At least Madden got it right.
Yeah, Madden finally got it right. We've been watching him throw dudes out the club for like 2-3 years, and he finally gets some recognition. 96 overall, edging out Cam Hayward and Jeffrey Simmons, who are both at 95. So maybe the highest Panther player ever. And I can't think of another player. Maybe Julius Peppers. I don't know what he would have been rated at, but
as far as defense,
or just
because I was going to say Christian McCaffrey got 99.
Oh, did he? I don't even. Wow. Okay,
didn't he get a 99 award?
You know what? Maybe when he was still here. Yeah, he may have. But I couldn't think of anybody on defense, especially, except for maybe Pep. That was the only one I could think of that might have got. And even then, I don't think he got a 96. So Derek Brown, he is 27, hitting his peak, already got the bag, going to anchor the defensive line. So had to talk about him a little bit. On the other side of the line, offensive lineman Brady Christensen signed a 1-year deal to return to Carolina this week. Part of the 2021 draft class that included J.C. Horn, Chuba Hubbard, and Tommy Tribble. Christensen is now the 7th oldest player on the roster at age 30. He'll be 31 going into August. And as we bring in Anish here, Anish, 23 players on this roster who were here for training camp in 2024. 6 of them are offensive linemen. Let's talk about the offensive line a little bit. How excited are you to see the full growth of this offensive line from everyone from Robert Hunt to the rookie that they drafted, Morgan Freeland, to play left tackle?
This has a chance to be one of the better units in the NFL. I think, to me, the offensive line is the strength of the offense. And when the Panthers have been good, especially over the last few years on that side of the ball, they've been able to run the football. The offensive line has been able to stay healthy. They've had continuity. What stands out this year is just the depth, even with Ike Ekwonu hurt to begin the season. And we still don't know if and when he'll be back this year, but you got Rasheed Walker, who started 40-plus games over the last few years with Green Bay. You've got Freeling, who's got incredible upside. I think with Taylor Moton, it's sort of reached a point where we always talk about him being so underrated. The guy just shows up. Jonathan Stewart hears us in the booth say it all the time. We never say his name because he just does his job. He just does his job. He makes the plays. And for the most part, he has been available. He's had a few injuries over the last few years. But again, Freeling's ability to play left tackle, to play right tackle. Lewis and Hunt, if they're healthy in the middle of that defense, that's huge. And then I think it's going to be fun. You got Fortner, the veteran, on a 1-year deal. Sam Hecht didn't allow a sack at Kansas State, 5th-round pick. You got Chandler Zavala. You got Christensen, even a guy like Stone Forsythe. So you're probably looking at 8-9 guys making the team, and there's going to be some hard cuts, but you're going to go into the season with a strong starting 5, and you're going to feel good about the depth you have up front. To me, that is the strength of the offense.
Stu, as a former NFL running back, if you were in that room and you're looking at the names and the giant beings that are going to be blocking in front of you, if you're Chuba Hubbard or Jonathan Brooks and you see this offensive line, what are you immediately thinking like going into this training camp?
Well, first of all, if I'm the offensive coordinator, I know what I got to do. Got to run the rock.
Run the rock.
But I'm always going to say that, by the way. No, but there's a lot more meaning behind it being able to go into the start of a season and have the depth, have the chemistry in your starting lineup, right? And yeah, you're gonna have the youngin come in here and make a case to get out the gate, right? You were drafted first round, buddy. It's time to get your big boy pads on, get your conditioning right, learn the scheme, but more importantly, get some pancakes, right? And you got some guys that have done it that are gonna be right alongside of you, to show you the way. And I'm talking about Freeling. But the nucleus is intact. That's what we've been waiting for. We've seen time after time again. Yeah. Our years have been, haunted by injuries. Last year you have Robert Hunt going down early in the season, on a road game, and that's not the way you want to start your season. You got to have your dogs up front, ready to eat, ready to move that line of scrimmage. And what's more important, you talk about the offensive line, you talk about the trenches. I feel like the training camps that you have, your peers around that are better, right? Like you have the defensive side of the ball. I look at the young boy, Scorton. I look at Princely. I look at Derek Brown. I look at, Lee, the guy that just brought in. We have a really good defensive line. Jaden Phillips, that's who I was thinking about, right? You have a good defensive line. So I look at training camp, you're going to get these reps that are meaningful, right? Impactful, meaning I'm getting better as a unit. I'm getting better in the trenches, period. I look back when I played, Charles Johnson leading the way, just guys that, KK, guys that would challenge each other in the trenches. This is the moment in training camp where you get better. This is where you get designed, right? Because now the coaching staff is actually able to see what you're capable of against an elite, competitor. And so I'm really excited for the trenches. Anish, again, I think you're spot on as far as the strength on the offense. It's the offensive line. It was the offensive line last year. We just got banged up.
It's in the past couple of years, actually. Yeah,
that's not by accident. When you look at what Dan Morgan did in the draft, going left tackle, interior D lineman with the first two picks, that speaks to a philosophy. We want to be really good in the trenches, and then we're going to fortify the trenches as we go forward. And this was a year they felt they had to fortify. A'Shawn Robinson, salary cap casualty. I think we may feel that a little bit because he did a lot of things, and he took some heat off of Derek Brown, veteran guy, made plays, was a really solid player for the Panthers for a couple of seasons. So big shoes to fill for Lee Hunter. But to me, the trenches is where this thing starts. It's a tired, cliched football adage, but it's true. And Dan Morgan believes it. And part of the Panthers' formula last year was you want to be stout running the ball. And then when they went on that 3-game win streak, they were really good stopping the run. And so they got to get better on the defensive side, certainly, but it starts there. And I think there was a coach last year who broke it down very simply. He said it's about timing. And Jay Stu, you know this, right? He said if you're good up front, your quarterback has more time to throw. Your running back has more time to find the hole and make that cut. And on the flip side, if your defensive line is shortening the time the other team has, that again opens everything up. So it's like you're trying to win seconds, and that's what your D-line allow you to do.
It helps when you have a Derek Brown in the middle of the line. Back. Yeah, Derek Brown helps you shave some seconds off for sure. And actually, you know what? As Anish Shroff joins us play-by-play for Panthers Radio Network here on Believe in Panthers as we open season 7 of Believe in Panthers. Stu, you know what I want? I want, with Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard, I want Double Trouble 2.0. I want another season of 2 running backs, both running for 1,100 yards each. And I think they can do it. I want to go look up the line that you and D'Angelo ran behind in 2009. Left tackle, Jordan Gross. Left guard, Travell Warden. Center, Ryan Khalil. Right guard, Kedrick Benson. Right
dog. Hey, Kedrick was a dog.
Yeah, he was one of them nasty dudes that just kind of he'd be there a year or two and just
Old school vet.
Right tackle Jeff Ota. So you got literally
Kedrick taught me how to drink Crown Royal.
That's gonna be a story for a day for sure. Ota was a first round pick. Gross was a first round pick. Khalil was a stalwart of that team forever. And you kind of got those elements with the guys that you have right now. And I'm sitting there looking at it like, what would be Bryce Young's best friend this year? A huge run game, like just pound up 150 yards every week, just boom, 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 where you just are just leaning on dudes. And then you let Bryce go and do what he does when he sees Atlanta. Literally just spread it all over the place and, throw for 300 some yards or whatever. Bryce don't need to do that, but it feels like, to Anish's point, that's exactly what Dan Morgan's doing and has been doing since he got here. It was like, look, the offensive line's a mess. The defensive line's a mess. We've got Derek Brown. We have nothing around him. Let's start to build this. And this past offseason in particular, Anish, it felt like defense was the focus, where they hadn't really got Jerry Ivero the parts he needed to run his defense the way he was running it before he got here. This year, it feels like they finally have given him enough pieces where they're not just plucking Ivero guys from around the league to fill in spots for a year. It feels like they have done really well with the draft, especially on the back end and free agency, to fill in holes for guys that are going to be here multiple years. What do you think about what they've done with the defense this offseason?
Well, really, it's 2 off seasons when you think about it, because I remember sitting with Dave Canales before the season started in 2024. And we just had kind of a big picture conversation of where this roster was at, especially on the defensive side. And he said, listen, this is year 1 and they're coming off 2-15. The Panthers were essentially scouring the waiver wire, not to fill out the practice squad, but to add live bodies to their 53. That's where we were 2 years ago. Now you go into this offseason and this training camp, there might be some hard decisions and some hard cuts. That shows you how much depth you now have on the roster. Are they there yet? No, they're not there yet. But I felt a year ago at this time, if the defense could go from historically bad, which it was in 2024, it was one of the worst run defenses of all time, to just league average, which is kind of about where they settled in, you would have thought that had to be worth 2 or 3 wins. They ended up, going from 5 wins to 8 wins. Well, now you've added another draft class. You get a second-round pick in Lee Hunter. We'll see what Wheatley can do. You get another year of guys like Ransom and Scorton. You obviously have Derek Brown. You go sign Devin Lloyd. You get Jalen Phillips. Uman McMillan, Nick Scorton. Again, another year with those guys. I love the cornerback tandem. I'll take J.C. Horn and Mike Jack and put them up against any tandem in the NFL.
Yeah, Mike Jackson was a revelation last year, wasn't he?
One of the best trades in franchise history already.
Ever. Yeah.
Ever.
Now
he did such a favor last year. If you don't have Mike Jack, we're not.
We might not have won the division, actually, because he won that Rams game almost by himself.
The best thing that I found, right? So teams that normally have a lot of takeaways and interceptions, they usually have a really good pass rush because, again, we talk about timing, right? Quarterback's under duress. You've got to get rid of the ball. Leads to an opportunistic secondary making plays. The Panthers last year were near the very bottom in sacks, yet somehow top 10 in interceptions. There's a part of me that, okay, you got some ball hawks on the back end. If Scorton takes another step as a rusher, if Phillips brings what he's supposed to. Devin Lloyd's a guy from the interior, can rush the quarterback a little bit. We know Trevin Wallace is an athlete. Maybe you blitz him a little bit. Uman McMillan is a third down guy. Pat Jones, Derek Brown at 5 sacks. The point is, if you get more pressure this year, one would think there's more opportunities for takeaways. So now I look at this defense, okay, can you go now from middle of the pack and be a top 10 defense? And if they are, to me, this is at least a 10-win team. That next step is harder, but they are so much better equipped on defense than they were 2 years ago. They're better equipped on defense than they were last year. There's some young, exciting players there. I'm really excited for this defensive unit because, again, to go back to that point, top 10 in interceptions last year without much of a pass rush. If you now give EJ a chance to get exotic and bring some pressure, or just guys getting home with a 4-man rush, you don't necessarily need sacks. Impact the quarterback. Make him throw. Don't let him get comfortable. There's going to be more opportunities for guys like Horn and Jackson and Merrick and whoever's playing that other safety position.
That's what it felt like actually last year, because you kind of reminded me, Anish, where they didn't finish it in terms of completing the sack, but there'd be a hand there. There'd be somebody around somebody's ankles. They'd be close. And it would I remember Matthew Stafford, the first Rams game, being kind of rattled because he couldn't just sit back there and throw, because we were kind of getting back there to him. And I believe Mike Jackson had 3 interceptions or something in that game. Like, it was one of those games where he was just everywhere, like, for the whole thing. Stu, what do you think about the defense, what we've seen so far now that we're getting into training camp?
Yeah, I think, having, Jalen Phillips in the mix, people were kind of confused, scratching their heads about, his numbers, right? Sometimes your best players are just not going to have the numbers. Mm-hmm. I look at this being a situation where there's going to be games where Jalen Phillips, his presence alone and what he's offering to that defensive line is offering for Scorton to be free. To offer for Pat Jones to be free, for Princely to be free, for there to be, packages that allow guys to come off the edge because he's a problem, right? And then there's going to be games where you make the offensive coordinator have to choose, right? Well, do we go let Scorton get to the quarterback, or do we let Jalen Phillips get to the?
And by the way, you still have to contend with Derek Brown in the middle.
Who's literally throwing 2 people,
right?
Who every week we saw throwing 2 people out at once, like out the club in a motion and getting back. Like, Derek Brown might be the scariest individual in the NFL.
It's funny. So I see him every now and then at the gym that I go to. When you see him in general pop, like when you see him amongst ordinary humans, he doesn't look real. It looks like, a cartoon character that you come up with, right? Somebody out of a comic book.
Incredible.
One of the wonders of the world.
Yeah.
He does, right? I mean, the guy's a walking, moving colossus, who runs like a 4.8 40 or whatever. Guys
get chased by grizzly bear
are not supposed to move the way he does.
What's crazy too? I bet he's good at basketball. Like, those guys are like that. The ones that are like 295, 310, but they're 6'5". They're just like this mass of like granite. They're good at like multiple things, not just throwing people out the club. He can probably dunk the ball. He can probably
definitely can dunk it.
He's just a really good human being. I'm glad
he's a great ambassador for the team, for the city. You see him at so many community events. You see him involved with charities. You see him giving back. I mean, I remember when he was at Auburn and I had done one of his games, they talked about him like you would about a senator or a congressman, where they just said he represented the program so well. Great in the classroom, great in the community, and then obviously a beast on the football field. So, we have a lot of those guys, and I'm not trying to be that mouthpiece for the team here, but I do think that matters. And the fact that he's homegrown and that he was drafted, to me, that's a big deal when those guys are also likable and they're visible. But Jay Stu, to your point, right? I'm just looking here at a couple of notes. Jalen Phillips had a top 5 pressure rate in the NFL last year. Devin Lloyd had 5 interceptions last year, which means with Horn, Mike Jack, and Devin Lloyd, the Panthers have 3 of the top 10 in interceptions from a year ago.
Don't tease me like that, Anish.
Yeah, so you hear that, Panther fans? Say it again, so the people in the back can hear you, Anish. Say
3
it again.
of the top 10 in the NFL in interceptions will be on the starting defense for the Panthers. And again, Jalen Phillips, you can point a lot to the sack numbers not being there, sure. In terms of pressure rate, impacting the passer, top 5 in the NFL, 19% pressure rate. So we haven't had that. The Panthers as a team, again, low sack numbers, but also a low pressure rate. Some of that was, again, a lot. I'm always loath to criticize play calling because you don't know what goes into it, and you have to call plays, as Jay Stu knows, according to what your guys can do and what they've shown they can do in practice. And so it's like, hey, if we're not getting home with 4, if we're not getting home with 5, then you're putting yourself at risk if you're bringing pressure. And so that's why you saw a lot of the soft zone and dropping back in coverage, keeping things in front because you're trusting your corners to defend longer and make those plays. now they've got more pieces. I am very curious to see if that opens up another layer of aggressiveness for this defense.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the sub packages alone, right? Sub blitz packages. Thank you, Devin Lloyd. Man. Hey, Devin, get up there and act like you going, then drop back.
Yeah, drop back by 5. Just completely confuse them and get an interception. Like, I'm so excited about this defense because we've heard for 3 years how good Ejiro Evero is as a defensive mind. And then first year, people were running through us like hot butter, like literally right up the middle of the field.
Well, hold on a second. No, if you go back to his first year was with Frank Reich.
Oh no, second year. I'm sorry. When he lost Derek Brown. Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, and again, the trickle effect of losing Derek Brown is devastating.
It's a large man.
But if you go back to the first year, that offense couldn't get out of its own way. Mm-hmm. How many times did we watch that defense in those low-scoring grudge matches keep the Panthers in the game for a half, 3 quarters? Now, they got worn down.
It was bend, don't break defense.
Yeah, you're right. We still had Shaq Thompson, and he got hurt. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
right.
That was like, I'm not saying it was a Super Bowl defense. It's a pretty good defense.
It was serviceable,
and you had Frank Luvu, and you had Brian Burns, and
you had remnants from the previous regime still on that defense. Yeah, you're right. You're actually right. And then second year, which would have been the first year of Dave Canales. Is that right?
Right. So you've now lost Luvu. You've traded away Burns.
Yep.
And what was the other one? Oh, and then Derek Brown gets hurt week 1.
Gets hurt.
Like week 2. So that altered that defense completely. That was the year where I remember just sitting here in the second quarter watching teams just literally Pop Warner. They would just open up the middle of the line and the running back would just go straight. Because
that was the year that Reich was there. That was the year that Derek Brown had 100 tackles or something.
Yes,
like that, right?
and did not make a Pro Bowl, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
In my head.
Yeah, just I don't understand it. Like, I mean, I know we're the Panthers. I know we're not on national TV all the time, but dang, like, come on, everybody else knows who he is. I want to switch
over. I got a question.
Oh, go ahead.
He did make the Pro Bowl, I think, in 23. Yeah, he did make the Pro Bowl that year.
Was he a starter or did he come in as an alternate? I felt snubbed somehow. Like when it happened, I was like,
I don't know if he was
all pro. Maybe he wasn't all pro or something like that. Yeah, I think that's what it was. But go ahead, Stu.
Yeah, but he was incredible.
He should have been. Yeah, go ahead, Stu. What you got?
As far as the defense goes, we have the defensive line intact. We got Devin Lloyd, at the linebacker position, to bring some credibility. To be short, Trevin Wallace, obviously, he's been, ever since Shaq Thompson went down, he's been the guy that everyone's been looking to come into fruition. And it's hard to do that when you don't have someone next to you, especially if you're a young guy, to look up to as far as, how do I do things? How should I call plays? Like, how do I get my guys to respond and line up and not worry that, guys aren't going to be in the right position, so that way I can then make a play, right? There's just a lot of moving pieces that I think a lot of people don't understand about playing the linebacker position, especially the green dot, that you have to be so ready for. And, this being a year for him and having Devin Lloyd, I feel confident about that, right? I feel like there's going to be improvement. I want to ask you, though, on defense, what's one thing that you're going to be looking at through training camp, through preseason, to come to fruition as far as a hope? Like in certain, whether it's the defensive line, the linebacker spot, DBs, safety, what are you looking for in hope to come to fruition?
2 things. So one, who's the new A'Shawn Robinson for Derek Brown?
Mm-hmm.
He needs a sidekick on the D line. So what you have in Derek Brown, but Turk Wharton being out for who knows how long, he had the neck surgery. That's significant. Bobby Brown showed flashes, and he's still a young player. I think he's still only 25 years old, 6'4", 330. He's a space eater. He's familiar with the system. Can we get the Bobby Brown we saw against the Rams? Because when he played his old team,
he showed out.
And he was coming after it. And so there were flashes from Bobby Brown. You need some consistency. Lee Hunter, love the upside, still a rookie, right?
That's who I was on to eventually get it, maybe.
Beyond that, right? What do you get in year 2 from Cam Jackson? LeBron Ray's been a good rotational piece. There was a lot of excitement about the kid from Duke, undrafted free agent Aaron Hall. He's a guy that I'm kind of watching in camp. But to me, you know what you have in Derek Brown? Like, who can be that second guy on the D-line? That just goes a long way to fortifying that defensive front. And then I think nickelback is going to be an interesting position because remember last year, Corey Thornton took over that starting job. Then he got hurt in that Monday night game against San Francisco. He was a big camp standout. He's now coming back off an injury, but they really liked what they saw from Thornton last year. He's going to have a chance. You got Sean Smith-Wade as your incumbent, and then you got Will Lee, who can play inside, outside. He's the kid they call the blanket, the rookie out of Texas A&M. So who's that complement? And then the one piece, and this we'll see in the season because we're going to get the litmus test early on. But Jay Stu, where did this defense really struggle last year? They struggled against tight ends. They struggled against guys in the middle of the field. It started with Brenton Strange in the Jacksonville game.
Jaguars, man. He tore us apart.
I mean, how many times did Juwan Johnson make plays in the middle of the field for the Saints, whether it was Trey McBride? You look at the way this schedule sets up. I mean, Devin Lloyd is going to help against these tight ends they'll face. Week 1, Chicago, Colston Loveland, right? Then you get Atlanta, Kyle Pitts, who they just paid a ton of money. Harold Fannin, right, from Cleveland, Laporta, Detroit. Philly's going to run 3-4 tight ends at you, maybe more than that. You're going to start to see all these guys. We're going to find out real quickly if they can cover the middle of the field. And that's, again, Devin Lloyd's going to help there. The safeties are going to help there. But that's kind of what I'm watching. And then I'm watching, who's that starting safety next to Trayvon Merrick? That, to me, is a wide-open competition. Nick Scott is cerebral. He's smart. He knows the system. He's been in the system. Lathan Ransom had that unfortunate play against the Saints, and then the very next week gets the pick against Baker Mayfield in the game that ultimately got Carolina to the postseason. They really like Wheatley, the kid they got in the 5th round out of Penn State, thinking he was probably going to go maybe a round or two higher. And then Isaiah Simmons, I think, is going to be an interesting name. Former first-round pick. A lot of Panther fans wanted him over Derek Brown back in 2020. Had a block kick in the playoff game. He is long. He's rangy. And, again, just from some feedback that I've gotten, he is a guy that a lot of people are excited to see what he can do with his attention devoted to one position.
Because that was his thing, right? When the Cardinals drafted him, they kind of didn't really have him in a set spot. And he was a first-round pick. You're absolutely right. The debate was, should we go get Isaiah Simmons, who was coming off of Clemson that just went to the college football playoff, if I'm not mistaken. They might have been in the national championship the year he came out.
Let me ask you guys this. Would you want a 6'4", 238-pound? You'd probably trim up if you had to play safety. But 6'4", covering – think if you're a quarterback, right? You got Derek Brown in your face, got Scorton over there huffing and puffing, and then you got Jalen Phillips, and then you got Devin Lloyd saying, "Nah, not in the middle of the field."
Yeah,
I look back at the Rams game, the playoff game. If we had Devin Lloyd, we win that game.
It felt like we were 2 linebackers short. Or if we were 2 linebackers short of winning that game, if we had the 2 we went and got in free agency, it might be a little different. It's still crazy to me to think that we had the Rams on the ropes with a minute and some change left in the 4th quarter at home, and the atmosphere, like that was. Yeah. We've talked about this. That atmosphere was so electric. And Anish, you were in there. Like, it has not been that way in that building since 2015. To be honest, like
Luke said that to me. He said that to me at one point in the game. He turns around and goes, "This feels like 2015.
Yeah, it's like they unlocked it. It was crazy because you could feel it through the TV. I'm watching it at home, and I'm going crazy. And I never entertained the idea that we can win this game. I was always like, I'm happy we got to this point after everything we just went through. Like I'm happy we're here at the party. And then the party started getting towards the end. I'm like, hey, we might be able to take some cake home too. We might be able to have a party next week. Let's see what happens. And then Matthew Stafford showed up. But to your point, if we had a couple extra back there, and to Dan Morgan's credit, he recognized that and did exactly that.
Going back to this Isaiah Simmons guy though, and also Wheatley, like,
heard a lot about him.
I just think about, you look at teams, if you were going to build a team, right? You want a long, tall, physical go-getter. You need a ball hawk. You need somebody that's long to just even give the thought to the quarterback, oh, that's a 6'4" guy back there.
Legion of Boom. I mean, that's the whole philosophy of Legion of Boom, right?
That's a lot of radius that he's going to cover, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. I'll be watching for Isaiah Simmons, and I'll definitely be watching for Kuechly, because when we got him in this draft, like, I saw it. I kind of see the picture. I see you have Merrick, you have Ransom, you have these guys that are very, like, in my mind, similar in the sense of how they can play. Even Nick Scott, right? There's similar. There's a lot of similar characteristics as far as what types of guys they are. They can be in the box. They'll come down and willingly tackle, right?
Dogs. Like Dan said, dogs, right?
Some dogs, right? And off the leash.
Yeah.
But what we really want is somebody that's long, that can just go up there and just attack the sky. Attack the sky when the ball's in the air, no matter where you are on the field, type of guy. I mean, that would be beautiful.
Excuse me. I want to switch over to the offensive side. So we're talking about defense, and the one thing I'm looking at on offense is the wide receiver room, because we know who wide receiver number one is. That's Tetero McMillan. He made that point last year, winning rookie offensive player of the year. Who's wide receiver 2 and 3? Because that's an interesting question right now.
Two's a no-brainer.
Is it Coker? Okay, so he surpassed Legette in your mind at this point.
Again, he got paid too.
He got paid like a number 2 wide receiver, and let's be honest, he balled out in the playoff game. He was incredible.
Yeah.
Well, the big thing with Coker is health, right? He's had some quad issues. He's had some soft tissue stuff. Get through training camp healthy. I'd love to see him hit the ground running week 1. We just kind of had that from Coker. Yeah, his first year, right? He was signed to the practice squad, right? Then he got elevated. Then he got his opportunity. Had an injury along the way that slowed him in camp year 1. Year 2, again, another injury that slowed him in the early part of the season. Took him a few weeks. And then when he started getting his bearings, the guy catches everything. His catch radius, his football IQ, off the charts. Is he a burner? No, you're not going to mistake him for a Jimmy Horn. But the guy's got an incredible catch radius, 9 for 134 in the playoff game. He runs strong routes. I think he's a great complement to Tetero McMillan. It's a good 1-2 punch. And, is this a big preseason for Xavier Legette and a big training camp? No doubt. But, again, this is the NFL. I mean, Jay Stu knows it, right? It's like, okay, if Legette doesn't perform, you have Chris Brazzell and you have John Mechie and you have Jimmy Horn. You got all these other guys who are going to get
a lot of dudes in this room. Yeah.
I think he had all the motivation in that room to decide, whether he's going to break through or not. Right. How many
do you keep?
I think you got Brazzell. I'm hearing a lot of nice things about him.
Yeah.
As far as what he's going to be able to offer. Obviously, Mechie and Bryce Young have a history. And obviously with, Mechie's story and everything that he's overcome, as far as his health and just being able to be an overcomer, right? That's something that alone within a wide receiver room, just the value aspect there, but just the chemistry that he's going to be able to have with Bryce Young from his days in Alabama. I can't wait to see what that looks like. Hopefully it's everything that you would imagine as far as guys that are used to playing catch with each other.
He brings that element of speed, right? He can do things after the catch. And when you look at the Panthers last year, the 2 things that jumped out, they did not have a ton of big plays through the air. That's part of the reason they went and got Brazzell. Brazzell in the SEC had 10 catches, I believe, of 40-plus yards. And there's the Georgia game. You watch the highlights of the Georgia game. So there's a play, I think it's Ellis Robinson, the 4th, who's probably going to be a first-round pick in this upcoming draft out of Georgia. Brazzell just goes, high points the ball, brushes him off, and then runs for a touchdown. Has that ability to kind of, catch the ball in midair, in traffic, and then come down and go and just beat smaller corners. So Brazzell gives you that vertical threat. He can stretch the defense. The Panthers were near the bottom in terms of, average air yards through the air. They didn't throw the ball downfield a whole lot. And it's easy to make a big deal of that. But what's fascinating, you know who's last? Detroit, right? And Detroit was dink and dunk. But where did Detroit make that up? Number 1 in the NFL by a wide margin in yards after catch. Panthers were bottom 5, bottom 6 in yards after catch. So if you're going to go short underneath, you need guys to make plays and get a few extra yards after the catch. That's where somebody like Jonathan Brooks can help out of the backfield. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They just didn't have that. Brazel might be a guy. It's why I still think Jimmy Horn's got a shot. You know, people are kind of looking at him. Does he have a shot to make the team? Again, if he can be that guy yards after the catch, you can do that. Now you put in the added element of Brazel, who you have to respect vertically, because we have seen Bryce does throw a pretty deep ball. And Bryce had one of the best deep ball and big-time throw rates in the NFL. So I kind of look at those two things, yards after the catch and then more explosive plays downfield through the air. That unlocks another layer of offense. And Jay Stu knows, like, if you got to respect that, that will automatically open up.
Give me some cushion. Give me some cushion.
That safety can't come down in the box.
Yeah, you can get about 8 yards up in there before you even get touched by somebody.
Before I get pinked in the head by some safety that's just by himself hanging out.
And
that Georgia game that Anish is talking about, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
For Chris Brazel, the second. That boy went off for 6 catches, 177 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
What? Okay. There's so much.
Has at least a half dozen NFL players, right?
There's so much talent in that room. So I went back to look, because I remember years where it felt like we didn't have any wide receivers, like recently. So I went back like to 2023. It was just like, who was in the wide receiver room in 2023? Adam Thielen, who led that wide receiver room on the back 9 of his career with 1,014 yards and 4 touchdowns. Deep threat DJ Chark, who had 525 yards that season and 5 touchdowns. And rookie second-round pick Jonathan Mingo. Those are your 3 starters in 2023 at wide receiver. This year, you're talking about putting out Tetairoa McMillan, the reigning offensive rookie of the year, probably Jalen Coker, and then probably Legette, I would think, would be the third one, unless Brazel or somebody gets up in there in training camp. And like, I'm feeling like Xavier's got Xavier to be looking over his shoulder. Like, seriously, like
that to me is going to be a legitimate competition in camp.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Wide receiver 3, is it Brazel? Is it Legette? A guy we didn't mention that you shouldn't sleep on, the coaching staff loves, David Moore.
Oh, yeah. David Moore was hurt last year with his wrist, right?
He came back for the playoff game.
Knows the system. There's a lot of intrinsic trust with this coaching staff and David Moore. He is a guy that, again, if he's healthy, has a real shot to make the team as well.
I thought they were going to try to cut some people.
Who has more to prove on offense?
Who has the most to prove on offense?
The most to prove, yeah.
I think it's probably a toss-up between Jonathan Brooks and Xavier Legette. And then I still think you have to talk about Bryce in that conversation, but I would put him below those guys.
Okay.
I would actually put Bryce above those guys just because we haven't really seen – have we seen a 3-game stretch of good Bryce Young?
You know, the thing with Bryce, which I think will be fascinating this year, is will the Panthers have to throw the ball more? Because, I know Thomas Davis and Jonathan Stewart love what Jonathan Brooks can be. I'm cautiously optimistic, with the emphasis on cautious, only because he's a running back coming off 2 ACLs. Yeah. And he really hasn't had a full workload since his last year at Texas. It's been 3 years almost since he's had a workload. So if something were to happen to Chuba, can Jonathan Brooks come in and run the ball 20 times a game, 15 times a game? At what point can he get to that point if you need him to be that guy? And Chuba, let's not forget, is coming off a season where he's been banged up and he's battled through some injuries. If he's the guy from 2 years ago where he ran for 1,100 yards, great. Our worry is over. But there are question marks in that running back room. I look at the offensive line. They should be able to protect McMillan, Coker, Brazel, hopefully a rejuvenated Legette. That gives Bryce some weapons.
And hopefully Brad Isaac, hopefully Isaac is capable of unleashing our tight ends, right?
I feel like it'll be a different looking offense because with Canales doing it, he's having to do that plus manage the clock, plus, this, plus that, plus how did that guy get hurt? Like all this stuff at the same time. Now he can focus on being the head coach, like for once, and let somebody else you know kind of the philosophy of what you want to run. Let somebody else get in the kitchen and, see if they make the soup a little differently. And he can always take the plays back if he really wants to. If it's something really just the bottom falls out, he can always
give me them plays back. Give me that back. Over here messing around.
You're bringing up some old demons that are still fresh.
I know, right? It's still it's like, oh no, we don't want to go back to those times. Before we go,
I'm excited what Brad Idzik's wrinkle will be on this offense. Because where they really shined offensively last year was fourth down, and it's an aggressive offense. If you look at last year, the Panthers led the NFL in points that they scored on a drive where they had a fourth down conversion. They've had the third most fourth down attempts in the last 2 seasons, and where that comes into play is 3rd and 8 from the 50, okay? You want to dial up a blitz and you want to bring pressure, guess what? A run play is on the table. And so if you sense that and you run it and you get 4, and now it's 4th and 4 from the plus 46, you're not huddling back up. You can go no huddle. You can call a play. It limits how aggressive a defense can be because you're almost treating certain third downs like second down. Yeah, if you're in 3rd and 15, yeah, they can bring pressure. But you get into 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6. You got to be really careful if you're going to bring pressure now. It changes the equation because now on 4th down, you pick up 3 and you're, plus 40, plus 45. They showed you last year they can go for it. And, I'm curious with the sequencing of plays with Idzik. Is it different? What do they do there? But I'm excited. There's a couple things I'm excited about. I'm excited, Jay Stu, to see if we get to see some 21 personnel.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Look, get them boys active.
So
dang tight ends.
I like to look at this, right? 2 running backs, 1 tight end.
2 running backs, yeah.
So
the pony, because you have AJ Dillon. AJ Dillon's a short.
That's right.
It's a short yardage potential back that you can add into the mix. You got Achan. Look,
I gotta get used to calling that. I can't.
That's
what's the calling at the end?
That's one of the things that I don't. He could be a problem because the way he runs way different than all the running backs in that room.
He's kind of like a scat back. He's like a little different.
He got a different tweak to him.
Yeah. He's like I'm trying to think of somebody to compare him to. Who's the dude in Detroit?
Jameer
Gibbs. Not as good as him. Who would you say?
Jameer Gibbs.
Yeah, kind of like Gibbs. He's that mold. He's not as good as Gibbs, but I think he's kind of that twitch guy. Yeah, he ain't.
If he was a Jameer Gibbs, boy, he'd be a star.
Playing a lot more. Yeah, he's playing a whole lot more right now. But no, that's what I say.
I feel like that's what they have to get to. Like offensive coordinator has to. He had like Brad Idzik. You know who you got. You've seen what they do. There hopefully is an opportunity for him to showcase some of these players differently than we've seen. And if you have a whole offseason, that's the point. As an offensive coordinator, you get to then go and go through your roster, go through your depth chart and say, okay, this game, I'm going to show the world something they've never seen before. And it's this guy in this situation, right? And especially when you get to the playoffs, right? That's what you really live for. You've been watching this television, you've been watching this channel all year. Once we get to the playoffs, now we got premium cable, right? So, that's what I want to see. Hopefully, with Idzik and the guys that are on this roster, because I feel like there is enough, especially in the running back room. Jonathan Brooks stays healthy. That's a different creature. Yeah, it's a different creature. And
he
Chuba
was
Hubbard,
the highest rated running back coming out of that class.
Okay, so how will you handle Brooks in the preseason and in training camp? Are you trying to lather him up?
Good question.
And get him a lot of carries? Because that's one of my big questions for Canales and Idzik.
I wouldn't necessarily make preseason all about giving him callus, right? I wouldn't necessarily think about it in the sense of giving him callus. I'd be thinking in the sense of getting him lathered, right? And getting it, because I've been in those situations many a times where I've been hurt in the offseason, where I haven't touched the rock, where I haven't touched the field. I've been coming off, season-ending injuries, right? Where I get to training camp and I'm just barely functioning, right? So it's still a bit of a load management, in my opinion. But I knew as a guy like myself, I just needed enough touches to feel confident. I forget what year it was, but I was coming off of an injury, and we played preseason game against the Chiefs. And Coach Skip was on the sideline, and we got to the red zone. He said, "Get in there," and I said, "Oh, all right." And because I wasn't expecting to go to still play, and I got in and I scored a touchdown. And he said, "All right, that's all you needed." And he knew I just needed the confidence to know that I can do something to impact the game.
Is it like a certain amount of hits you need to absorb?
Track record. And I think that's where I have the question, because you had a track record. Hey, we know if Jonathan Stewart's healthy, he has produced in the NFL. Jonathan Brooks was the first running back taken in his class. If he's healthy, if he's 90% of who he was when the Panthers drafted him, that is exciting for all of us.
It's a steal, yeah.
So you get into these preseason games where, again, nobody plays their starters a whole lot anymore. But is he a guy that you just have to find out, can he hold up? Because if he can't hold up in the preseason, right, that probably tells you he wasn't going to hold up in the regular season. But then there's that other side of it too. Hey, if you only have so many bullets, you want to use them in the games that count. I think it's going to be fascinating how they deploy him, because there's also a part of me, just as a fan and somebody involved with the team, you kind of want to see him out there in games against an opponent in the preseason to see if that one cut ability is still.
And I would say I would take precedence over him playing in preseason over Chuba Hubbard. Put it that way. Okay. There's been moments where I got more preseason love than D'Angelo did at some times, right? I would place him in situations where I say, "Hey, Chuba, we don't need you. We don't need to see you right now. We want to see, our Jonathan JB, right?" And so that's how I would approach it. Behind the starting offensive line. I wouldn't risk it with, seeing how this chemistry and this matchup goes with this third string, this second string. I ain't playing that game, right? It's not worth it. Playing with the ones.
Before we get Anish out of here, Anish Shroff in the house from the Panthers Radio Network. You can hear him every Sunday on the Panthers Radio Network. A quick note from FanDuel. If you are a Panthers fan and you want to try to make some money, right now the Panthers are favored at plus 8,000 to win the Super Bowl over on FanDuel. So go to sportsbook.fanduel.com, place that bet. Like you said, Stu, you put 1,000 down on that, win 80,000?
80 grand.
80 grand in your pocket,
80 grand,
right there. Baby. Hey, believe in your Panthers. Believe in your Panthers.
We can't do no GoFundMe for that.
We can't. We talked about it yesterday. We can't do it. Man, I knew there had to be a catch for it. But yeah, go over there and check that out and win you some money. Before we go, I wanted to get your thoughts on our favorite linebacker, Luke Kuechly, who's going to be joining the Hall of Fame here in a couple of weeks. We'll be doing the Hall of Fame game. Carolina taking on the Arizona Cardinals live from Canton. Luke will get inducted into the Hall of Fame that Saturday. I passed Canton. I have in-laws in Cleveland. So, going up 77, I pass the Hall of Fame every, year I go up there. And I've been in it once. It's a great experience if you've never been, to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame and to be in there. There's some Panther stuff in there. It's pretty cool. I know you work with Luke, Anish, in the booth. So you got a chance to know him from this side. Stu, you've been in the trenches with him. I'm pretty sure both of you have similar stories for just how damn smart the guy is. Like, he just seems like he's just wired differently than everybody else. Give me a story, Anish, of you and Luke maybe planning or whatever for play-by-play where you kind of dawned on you like, oh, this guy's wired different. Like, do you have any kind of story?
I'll give you two. Okay. One speaks to his brains. The other speaks to what kind of teammate he is. So he has this notebook that he keeps. Jay Stu has seen it before the games. And he coaches Pee Wee football with Greg Olson, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Players. He's got all these plays drawn up. And as the game goes along, he'll see things, and he's drawing up plays left and right. So I remember after the first year that we had worked together, I just said, hey, Luke, I would love to go out to lunch with you, sit down, watch tape. I want to learn how to watch tape the way you watch it, because we've heard these stories about how legendary his tape watching is. So we pulled up the tape from the last game of the season. It was against Atlanta. And you're watching Daniel Negreanu. You're watching a poker player and a guy who can pick up on the most subtle tells, right? Oh, this guy, when he moves this way, when he lines up this way. And I work with a lot of guys in football from the Panthers and ESPN, and you start asking them questions. Hey, is this normal? Like the stuff that he's picking up on, is this normal? And they all look at me like, yeah, no, that's that's next level. And its ability to see it on film, instantly recognize it in the moment on the field is what separates him. And then the other thing I will tell you is when we're on the road and when we get done, we have to pack up all our stuff, and it's this giant crate that has to be wheeled out. And Luke is not one of these guys, as soon as we're done, he's out in the hallway. He is cleaning up the trash. He's packing up all the sound equipment. And I can't tell you how many times where we're through the bowels of the Superdome or Mercedes-Benz Stadium, New Orleans, Atlanta, Tampa, wherever we are, and you see Luke going down ramps, like pushing this giant cart on wheels, and there will be people walking by like,
is that Luke Kuechly?
can't be Luke Kuechly. Why would he be doing that? But that's Luke, like the guy to hold all the doors, the guy to be a great teammate. And Jay Stu, I mean, you guys have a great history together. You can see why people rallied around him. You can see why he was a great leader. You can see why like the words and the meaning behind it were backed up by the action. Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame person, and the single smartest football mind I've ever been around.
Stu, you went on a ride with Luke, making it all the way to the Super Bowl in 2015, greatest Panther team of all time. You've seen him in the locker room doing this stuff, and you've seen him on the field. I think you've told me once before, Luke is one of those defensive players where the offensive players would stand up and watch play, and that doesn't happen a lot. Give me a story that you can think of where, you saw Luke do something or something happen, and you were just like, that boy different. Like there's something different with him.
I mean, everybody knows that he's different as a football player. So there's really nothing, there's not a story that's going to shock you at this point. If you don't know Luke by now, you're missing out, right? But what I will say, man, watching him as a coach is I coach alongside him and Greg, and watching how he's able to communicate, to 7th graders, 8th graders, football language, and get them to do things the right way from his football brain, meaning he's capable of talking to, the top defensive coordinators to probably ever walk this earth, right? To a 7th grader on a football field and still be able to articulate to this kid what he needs to do, but not only articulate to this kid of what he needs to do, but get him to believe that he can do it. Now that is impactful.
That's a gift.
It's a gift, and it's not by mistake. He's intentional about every single thing that he does. He meets people where they are, and more importantly, he makes them feel seen. And so I think what Luke's, legacy is all about is people feel seen. And when you feel seen, you'll go above and beyond to do whatever it takes to win a game, to make someone else feel good, to just do your job. I mean, he says it all the time. Just do your job, right? And the way he goes about it, man, it's meeting people where they are. And I know we talk about emotional, people talk about the what is it called? Emotional knowledge or whatever you call it.
I'm not sure.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay.
Emotional intelligence, right? Like he has that. But he works at it. He asks the questions, and he wants to know. He's genuinely wanting to know who people are. He wants to be able to figure you out so that way, if we're going to work together, if I'm going to see you tomorrow, if I'm going to be investing my time with you, let's make this the best possible time ever. Like, I really and truly believe that out of him. So yeah, man, Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame person. He deserves everything that comes to him in the best way as possible.
And I'll end it with this, being the fan of the team on this show, watching Luke Kuechly. Luke Kuechly is probably my favorite linebacker of all time. I'm trying to think of someone else that I would put there in his place right now, but just watching him compile tackle after tackle in a game, like watching a dude with like 12 tackles, 15 tackles in a game, where it's just like you would watch games and he would be there before the ball carrier was there. Like he'd be in the hole waiting on you. Like, it just so crazy. And then I think the thing I like the most about Luke, you all, both of you hit the nails on the head in terms of what we all know about him. I love the fact that he recognized that when to go. Like, now's my time to go. I've done what I can do in this game. I'm moving on to other things. And I love that because now I don't have to remember a shell of Luke Kuechly, like someone that played for 15, 16 years and maybe should have stopped at year 10, that kind of thing. He did that. And like, you know what I mean? Like he literally, like he kind of ended at the peak of his career. So like, I thought he was a first ballot Hall of Famer in my opinion. Like just if you look at his resume, there's no reason why he shouldn't have been a first ballot Hall of Famer in my opinion. But the fact that he's getting in and he's a homegrown Panther, never, went anywhere else, played his whole career here. And we just went through this with in the area with LaMelo Ball getting traded away from the Hornets. And I saw people talking about, oh, what are you doing? You're trading away the culture. You're trading away this. You're doing that or whatnot. With the Panthers, they've gone through a couple of cycles of kind of leading the culture charge in Charlotte. And I feel like they're entering that now. And I feel like guys like Stu and Luke and Cam and Smitty and those guys, they were the last time we had it. Like we went through about 5 years of not having that. And now it's back. And I love the fact that they've brought Stu back in. They've brought Luke back in. They've brought these veterans that were so important to the fabric of the Panthers back into the fold, where it felt like for a while they were trying to go away from that and do something completely different than before. So to that end, I'm glad there's gonna be a celebration for Panthers in Ohio, like this Hall of Fame ceremony for Luke, because he's so beloved. I expect a lot of former Panthers to be up there cheering him on and rooting for him on to get in. Do any of you know who's inducting him?
Well, his dad is going to present him. But you brought up a great point, and since I've been with the team, and this will be year 5 as the voice of the Panthers for me, I've noticed it. One of the coolest things, it's that the great players, and it's a young franchise, right? 30 plus years. They're in their early 30s as a franchise. But the great players are still a part of the fabric. Jake Stu, Luke Kuechly, Muhsin Muhammad is around all the time, right? Jake Delhomme, obviously, Steve Smith. So many of those guys. John Beeson comes back, right? And you can go on and on and on. You have Dan Morgan running the team as the general manager. Julius Peppers, whoever it might be. That's why it was so great to see Cam back in the fold for that wild card game. And hopefully that's the start of Cam being reintegrated in the fabric of the Carolina Panthers, because
Absolutely.
He put the franchise on the map in a way that nobody had. But that has been one of the cool things, the alumni for this franchise, because they're so young, right? Like they're still around and they're present and they're relevant and you feel them. And Jace, through that moment at that playoff game, from Cam sounding the drum, and then at the beginning of the fourth quarter, it was, I believe, Jake, Steve,
Moose,
yeah, Muhammad, and I think Wesley Walls.
Walls.
And they're walking out lockstep toward the drum. I mean, I'm getting chills.
Yeah, me too. Keep going, Anish.
And it was this, again, past and present, this cold fusion of past and present coming together, making that moment feel even bigger. And you see that a lot with the Panther fans, and for a Panther franchise, and for a young franchise, right? A relatively young franchise. That's important, right?
Yeah.
When I moved here to Charlotte 15 years ago, somebody told me, nobody's grandfather was born a Panthers fan, right? So there's missionary work involved in kind of getting the name out there, getting the brand out there. You have to see it. But now you're into that generation where there are people. My daughter, 8 years old, grew up in Charlotte. She grew up a Panthers fan. And there's now a generation of kids like her. There's a generation of 20 and 30-somethings like her. And I think it's important when they see that the Jay Stews and the Mooses and the Lukes and the Jake Delomes and the Steve Smiths all still want to be a part of the fabric of this thing. I think that's really special.
Drake May, quarterback for the Patriots. He was at Super Bowl 50, like as a, I think like 10-year-old, 12-year-old or whatever. And now he was in the Super Bowl last year, for the Patriots, so coming out of North Carolina. It's just one of those things, man, when the Panthers are like hot, there's only two things really, like if the Panthers are hot or the Hornets are hot. And we just saw when you saw the Hornets hot this past like spring, Charlotte's a different place. Like when the Hornets
a long time. Don't you feel we're on the cusp of like a real moment as a sports town that we have not really had? Because it might be, the Panthers have a moment, the Hornets have a moment. Yeah, the Hurricanes who just won.
I'll go further into the state. Yeah, the state of North Carolina and professional sports. I think the Hurricanes winning the Stanley Cup is going to lead into this fall with the Panthers.
Yeah, that Stanley Cup was amazing, boy.
And then that's going to lead into the Hornets. People are writing the Hornets off because they think, oh, you trade away a little ball, blah, blah, blah. No, the Hornets are actually still going to be good. Like they might not be as flashy.
40 chess.
Yeah, I believe in what they're doing. Like,
there's a real chance. There's talk of Major League Baseball potentially coming to the Carolinas in Raleigh, especially.
Yeah.
I think we're having a moment, and when you're the flagship, which is the NFL team, you have a chance to be at the forefront of that. Jay Stu, you have felt what that is like in 2015. It's I'm excited.
It's lightning,
guys. I really am. I'm excited.
I'm excited. It's like lightning. And I feel this is the first time, because we're always optimistic here we're going to end right here, but we're always optimistic with the Panthers. We're going, Stu's going to pick them to go 15-1 or 16-1, that kind of every year. But we laugh about it. But this year we're like, yeah, well, actually we're expected to do a little something by a lot of people. With what we've had, the growth we've had the past couple of years and what they keep adding with Dan Morgan and Brant Tillis and Dave Canales and that think tank. I love the role that David Tepper has been playing the past 3 years, where he's doing what he said. He's going to step into the shadows, let football people do football work, and he's still there. Like when you watch these Blueprint episodes, you see him. He's there. He's asking questions. He's doing what he should be doing as an owner, but he's not making the decisions. Like he's signing off on the decisions, but he's not like, let's get that guy. I hate that guy. Let's do this. Let's do that, which it felt like he might have been doing before. Now he's letting football minds build this, and he's being patient. There's no quick fix in the NFL. People like to think there is, but there really isn't. And they're building it brick by brick. So I wanted to get to that with Luke and everything else, because I don't know if we'll be back before Hall of Fame, because that's the first week of, it's like in 2 weeks. So like we're literally barreling towards preseason. The Panthers will open up the preseason. We'll have 4 games this year because we'll be playing the extra one, the Hall of Fame game live in Canton, August the 7th, I believe it is. It's Thursday. Is it Thursday night? Are you going to call for that, Anish?
So NBC's got the game. So NBC has the game. So Mike Tirico and Collinsworth will do the game on NBC. I'll do the game on radio. And then the last 3 preseason games, Zoke will do the games on radio. And then I'll bump to TV with Smitty.
Shout out to my man, Jim Zoke.
And I'll be doing radio.
Yeah, Stu getting a little radio bug in there too as well. So
y'all gonna hear me cut up. That's what y'all gonna hear me.
Y'all control my guy.
Put some sauce in there, baby.
Make sure he's got low sugar and stuff going in there before the broadcast. We're gonna get out of here.
I turn around. Jay Stu's sitting there. He's got his headphones in. Half the time you're eating something. I'm going like, just again. No concept of, hey, we might be hungry.
Like, he ain't share. He's not sharing.
Well, shoot. All Anish does is drink tea. Make sure his voice is right.
Well, I understand that. I do play-by-play. I understand completely. You got to keep that throat moist, man. You got to make sure, you can't be reaching for something in the middle of the game. We're going to get out of here. Shout out to Anish Shroff for joining us today. We're back. Anish. Season 7 of Believe in Panthers, one of the longest running pods on the Believe Podcast Network. Shout out to all the fans that have rode with us throughout the years, different hosts and iterations. Me and Stu now, this is year 4, I believe. For Stu. Is that right?
5?
That's nuts.
4.
5. I think it's 4.
My daughter's 5.
It might be 4. Time flies when you're having fun. So we are back. We'll have our NFC South previews. We'll start dropping here over the next couple of weeks. We'll probably be back right after the Hall of Fame game, discuss what we saw during that, and we'll get you ready during the preseason. And before you know it, first week of the regular season, we'll be here and we'll have you covered. So shout out to everyone who's joined us. You are watching and listening to the Believe in Panthers podcast here on Believe Podcast Networks, brought to you by the fine folks over at FanDuel. Keep pounding. We'll see you after the Hall of Fame game.